And while I'm here, I figured I might as oof, okay. And while I'm here, I figured I might as well talk about something else that kind of bothered me. Because my little rant about canon and books and annotations was very quick. Supergirl. This one annoys me. Okay, so let me give a bit of context. I have not been a Supergirl fan. I am not a Supergirl fan. Plain and simple. I did not grow up with the character, and the version I was introduced to was very different. Obviously, I'm more familiar with Superman. With that said, this is why it annoys me. Maybe we have Supergirl. My first introduction to Supergirl, my first actual introduction to Supergirl, I sat down and I got to know a bit of her lore, was the CW TV show. What I didn't know at the time was that CW TV show lied to me because the Supergirl in that show wasn't Supergirl. It was, of course, a Superman show with a gender swapped Superman. Let me explain. So, Supergirl, as I came to find out recently, in the comics, is like her own character. She's her own different character, completely, different story than Cal's. And she has her own adventures and villains and rogues gallery to deal with, so on and so forth. Of course, she may have adventures with Superman, she may have adventures with the Justice League, but she's more or less her own character who go out into space and do her own thing, right? I never got that version from the CW version. CW version is very simple. She arrived on Earth after Clark, but she's older than Clark, and now she is Earth's protector, Earth's second protector, I guess. Because remember, in this universe, only she and Superman are like the only superheroes. The main Arrowverse is in Earth One. She's from Earth 38, so she and Superman are like the only protectors of Earth. And we get to see her adventures where she fights different villains like Livewire, Lex Luthor. There were some weird god villains in season 5. Um, in season 6, it's Lex Luthor again, and there was the fifth dimensional imp. I forgot her name, Mixie. I don't think it was Mixie. Mixie's the guy. I know it's like the brother. I don't know who this chick is. Basically, she fights a lot of people. And these people are again very similar to Superman because Livewire is a. And that's the thing. This is before I was familiar with Superman canon. Because remember, Supergirl was my first. The TV show was my first introduction to the character. I even talked about this on my main channel where I talked about the Supergirl show. This was my first introduction to the main character. So imagine the whiplash I received when I viewed other Supergirl media and content, and I realized, oh, this is not her at all. Supergirl in the comics does not have an adopted sister. Supergirl in the comics is not a protector of Earth, or at the very least, she's not on Earth for long. Supergirl in the comics is not as righteous as Superman. She's actually kind of a crazy girl. She's a bit more of a party girl, a bit more brash, a bit more angry. She's kind of a lot of anger with her, which makes sense. She grew up and saw Krypton destroyed. So of course she would be grieving in a completely different way than Clark would be grieving because like he barely knew Krypton. And so it's weird that the CW went out of their way instead of giving us an actual faithful Supergirl show that was like very faithful to her character. They gave us a show where again it's basically a Superman show but with a gender swapped Superman. And it makes me wonder, why not just do a Superman show? I understand they couldn't do a Batman show because apparently the CW didn't have rights to make a show about specifically Batman, which is why they made shows on the Bat family. Like there was a Batwoman show, there was the Bat Knight show. He was in that. I mean, not Bat Knight, but like, it had the Bat Knight character in there. Gotham was obviously a show that was about Gotham. There was an Alfred show. And of course, they could use Bruce here and there, but like it was very sparingly. They rarely use Bruce at all. Bruce doesn't have a live action show, as far as I'm aware. Again, it's mostly his family, characters related to him. That was the show. Gotham is the Jim Gordon show. The Pennyworth show is the Alfred show. The Batwoman show is the Batwoman show about his cousin, and then later on his cousin's girlfriend, if I'm not wrong. That kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, they didn't want to make a show about Batman because they had a rights issue, so that's the problem. What's stopping them from making a Superman show? And as we know, Superman has had many live action shows in his lifetime. Batman only has the one, which is like from the 60s. Superman has many live action shows throughout the character's lifetime. In fact, he had a show that ended last year, Superman and Lois. That was a Superman show. So it's like, if the CW could always make a Superman show, why not just make a Superman show? Why did they make a Supergirl show, which isn't loyal to the character of Supergirl at all? Again, they just gave her Superman stories, but had her as the main character. They had her be a founding member of the Justice League, not Superman. Because yeah, okay, Superman is in the Justice League in the CW reverse, but Supergirl is clearly like front and center as the head. Look at the pictures of the CW Justice League. It's either her or Barry in the center. It's like it's so confusing to me. It's like, again, why go through this trouble and not make a Superman show? Which I know, obviously, grifters will do their thing and be like, oh, obviously they were pushing their whole agenda for women to be the main characters, to take the spotlight from men, blah 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 blah. But I think it goes slightly deeper than that. There has to be a reason. There has to be an actual reason where it's like it's not just like girl power. Because again, I don't think anyone would have objected if they made a show about a female superhero. Stargirl exists. Okay, Batwoman exists. Okay, Batman. No one likes Batwoman, but you get what I'm saying. It's a show about a female superhero that exists. But Stargirl, from what I heard, it was received well, and it's like, what? So it's not that I would have had an issue with the Supergirl show existing. It's my issue is why didn't they make a Supergirl show based on the actual character Supergirl? Why did they just again give us Superman's adventures? Hell, Jimmy Olsen is in the show, but still being Supergirl's best friend. He's her love interest, at least for the first season, and then they go into best friend territory, and then they bring in Jimmy's sister, who then becomes like Supergirl's best friend slash her sister's girlfriend, which again, most of the stuff just isn't in the comics. And it makes me wonder because it makes me wonder why would they do this? Because all you're serving to do is confuse audiences like me, and it will always raise the question: who the heck was the show made for? Because like I don't think the Supergirl show is a bad show. I do think it's a show that massively fell off, and it's not very good. I think only the first and fourth seasons were good. Two, three, five, and six aren't really that good. Okay, five maybe a bit too harsh. And five wasn't that bad, but like two, three, and six are just really not good at all. So the show is mid at best, and but like, so like, I don't have a huge hatred or grudge for it. But since it's my first major introduction to this character, because again, I didn't read any of the comics, I didn't watch any of the animated shows. It's just like they even have like a Red Sun plot line, which again is a Superman plot line. Red Sun Superman is a story about what if Superman grew up in Russia, whereas or in a Soviet country, whereas in Supergirl, Red Sun Supergirl is just a clone of Supergirl who happened to wake up in a Soviet country somehow. But it's like, you see what I'm saying? So it's like, to me personally, it makes me ask the question: who the heck was this show made for? Clearly, it's not for fans of the character, people who actually read the comics or watched the animated shows that came before, because again, the lore of the character and her adventures and her personality does not line up with what came before. And it can be for new audiences like me, because okay, we'll fall in love with this version of the character, but then for new audiences, we'll just see her the exact same as Superman. So why would we care about her when Superman is all we've ever known? And to an extent, we'd argue Superman is better, even though the show very much makes it a point to say Supergirl is a lot stronger than Superman. They say this like in the second season. So like, why would we care about Supergirl when we already have the original? And even if it is for new fans to fall in love with Supergirl, why not let us fall in love with the stories that actually defined her, the good stories of Supergirl that defined her? And then that way we go out our way to read the comics and see the other stuff. It just doesn't make sense to me. It all it does is to piss off, pre-established fans. It all it does is piss off the fans that have always been here, and it pisses off and it confuses the newer fans like me. I'll never understand it. I will genuinely never understand why they they went that route with the show. I still have some nostalgic feelings for the show. I it was kind of all I watched during the pandemic. That and the Flash. Those were my go tos. I was kind of hooked. I was hooked on the Arrowverse, like hooked. But like I was happy nothing like it was drugs, opium, and that stuff. But like I will never understand why. Like looking back now that I know better, I will never understand why they just couldn't have faith in the character and actually make a superhero show that's true to the superhero female character instead of stealing her male's stories and personality and basically all of the male's counterparts. It's like we're living in like the CW is a very like the Arrowverse is a very progressive show. It is aggressively leftist in its politics, and so it's like, and you know me, I don't really delve into politics that much, but like I feel like I have to bring it up. It is aggressively leftist in its politics, which means that obviously they would love to give as many diverse people, a chance to speak, the spotlight, and to talk about stories that haven't been talked about before. Again, they went ahead and made a Stargirl show. Um, and it's like, and Batwoman exists, and that was a whole drama of a show when it came out. And of course, Gotham Knights exists, but I think that one's just like really bad in its own right. So it makes me wonder, like, why couldn't they have enough faith in their, woman superhero character and her stories, and not have to rely on stealing the stories and personality of the man superhero character? It just feels very weirdly backwards to me, if you ask me. Especially from the CW of all places. I don't know. It never sat right with me. because I said it like who's the show made for at that point? It can't be for new audiences because all you do is confuse them when they finally learn who Supergirl actually is, if they actually care about the character that much. And it's not for established fans, so it's like, what are we doing here? Anyway, that's just weird random shower thought I had in my mind, and I was thinking it over so much. I'm like, I gotta put it in a video. There's no way I'm going to be able to like rest if it's not properly put in a video. So, yeah, here we are back with the. Again, I don't know why I insisted on this being in a short format. This should have just been a longitudinal video like this, but I think I just wanted to experiment for once. And I saw some of the YouTubers do it, and this small, less chill YouTubers. But yeah, anyway, those were my thoughts on it. I don't know if I'll do more videos like this. I highly doubt it, but it was fun. So, yeah.